It is not okay. Now it's recording. Go ahead.
So I think the title itself is called Getting Beyond What Is. And that's the problem, because we get stuck in trying to get into what is. When we are in a situation, what is happening at that moment of time consumes us and everything. And our challenge is, how do we get beyond what we're being consumed by? And in my book, I take you through all of those different steps, from your emotions to your thoughts to your beliefs, in terms of how do you get beyond any situation you're in today. And so through the book, if you learn the lessons in the book, it will teach you, first of all, why you respond to situations the way you do, because it gives you some context for how you are or why you are the way you are, and the way we all are today. We are a result of our past, but our past doesn't have to choose and decide for us how we move forward in our future. And the book teaches you and takes you through that understanding. So it's sort of like, it's like going to school. And it also has my story in it. And it's an honest story. I talk honestly about my own life, what I've overcome. I grew up in a very rural place in Ireland. My mother was an ex-nun and my dad was a farmer. So I grew up in a very Catholic household, and I was a young gay boy. And that created a huge emotional undertones in my own life, which led to my own suicide attempt when I was 23. And throughout the book, you'll hear parts of that, but also how I was able to get through all of that. And there is a resounding tone to the book, the fact that we are capable, but we are also responsible for our lives, and we are responsible for what we attract into our lives, and we're responsible for how we move forward in our lives. And that's why the book is called Getting Beyond What Is. If you think of yourself, well, this is my problem in my life at this moment in time, how do I get out of this situation? This book will help you do that. But it doesn't. The thing most people want is give me 7 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things that you will do, and my life will magically change. Unfortunately, this book changes you from the inside out, not necessarily from the outside in. So if you want a book that's going to give you a magic, recipe, which there are books out there that promise you change your life in 30 days, not possible. But if it's taking you 30 years to get to be a certain way, 30 days ain't going to have much of a dent in 30 years.
Well, I have a thing for that. I have a thing for that too. Well, but the reason why it sells so good is because about marketing, copywriting tactics. That's what it is.
Yes, of course it does. It is about.
That's the same thing as the secret. They use the copy marketing tactics.
Yeah, people want. I think people, as I said earlier, people want a quick solution to a long-term problem, and the problem is the fact that they want to, plaster over a problem as opposed to really understand why the problem is there. When you plaster over something, it's only Band-Aid. It's only there for temporary. It will manifest again in 3 weeks' time and 4 weeks' time. So if something is recurring in your life, and it means that you're not addressing the core of why that is there. Regardless of whether you're in an abused relationship, whether you're in a poverty mindset, whether you're in in a successful relationship, there are reasons for those things happening. There are reasons for, and there are ways of moving forward and getting them. A lot of the time, you may not like the answers. When someone says to me recently in terms of how do I move forward, and I said, forget about the past. But I can't forget about the past. Well, then you never move forward. So why are you struggling? If you want to move forward, you've got to put the past away. You can't be jumping back into the past every 2 minutes, thinking, oh, well, God, it was much better. And the thing about our past is when we go back into our past, we tend to regress and we change things around. It makes it a lot prettier and a lot better than it actually was. So when we look into the past, we think, actually, maybe that problem wasn't as bad as it was. This problem I have today is much worse. And that's the problem, is the fact that if you want to move forward in your life, be in the present and move forward. don't go into the past. And if you can't stop going into the past, you'll never go forward, because you're constantly, when you go into the past, you bring the past into your present, and then your present now becomes about all the thoughts about what went wrong, what didn't go wrong, what could have gone better. That consumes your present, as opposed to thinking about what is it I'm doing now? What do I want for my life now? Deciding what it is I want, then understanding how do I change that? How do I change a belief? How do I change an experience about a past? You do that in the present. You don't do it by thinking about all the things that have gone wrong in the past. You think about those things have gone wrong, and they've gone wrong for a reason. What was the reason? And then examining that, because I believe, maybe because I put no effort in. I put minimum effort in, and I got very little results. If you can say that I've done something and I've done it to the best of my ability, most likely in your life, if you can say that about something, you've done pretty well. Very few things you will do in life will you have done to your best of your ability and you have failed at. Most likely you will have succeeded at. It's the things that you did very little about. You put very little effort in, but wanted a better achievement. That is where, and it's getting up every day and saying, this is what I want. This is what I decided upon. That's why making a decision about what you want is so important, because you're going to have to get up every day and show up as that person. Show up as that person who wants to be a writer, who wants to be an actress, who wants to be a teacher, who wants to be someone in love, who wants to be a millionaire. You have to show up every day as that person, believing that this is who you are today. This is who you are, and you're molding yourself into creating this reality. That's why when you talk about the law of attraction, they talk about we create our own reality. That's what they talk about. You create that reality by believing in it first and then seeing it. But people say, I want to believe it, so therefore I want to see it before I believe.
Wait,
show the money in the bank, and then I'll believe law of attraction works.
Yes. This is because before we talk about, this is oftentimes most people in the law of attraction say, "I'll see it before I believe it." Like when I'm not talking about the ones that already achieve and they already using the law of attraction to live their life, but yeah. I'm talking about the most people who are going begin into the law of attraction and say, "I'll see it, then I'll believe it." Right?
Yes.
Wrong mindset right there. But you said in the you said you were gay?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about this. I know that people are uncomfortable with this. I'm not. The reason why I'm not, most people are scared of gay people. I know this is like dumb, but let's talk about this. Most people are afraid. I don't know why they're afraid, but I've been living with gay people in boarding school. So I'm okay with it. But I used to say some crazy stuff all the time back in boarding school, but I don't want to say it because it's the YouTube thing. But I wanted to say it so much, but I can't say it because I say some crazy stuff. Because when I say because I like gay people, they're really fun. They're really nice too. So can you tell me?
Well, I'll let you in a secret. We're also human. Did you know that?
Yeah.
We're human. It's hard to believe, I know.
But that's what the thing is. People
we're human beings first. Everyone is a human being. Race and sexuality and gender really has no play in it. We, as human beings, we put those labels on things like rich and poor. If everybody was the same, if you didn't disassociate with, different races and different, economic states, the fact that our life and the world will be a very different place. You have now this whole thing, Muslim versus non-Muslim, and the fact that what's that got to do with who anybody is as a person. But it goes back to our minds. Our minds have to categorize things. They have to put things into categories to make sense of stuff. So they will put things in, they will receive information, and based on what you already have experienced. So if you have, say for instance, if you have a gay box in your mind, you have a big cabinet, which is all the gay stuff, all your gay experiences have gone into this cabinet in your mind, is a filing cabinet. So when you meet somebody that is of that sexual orientation, you then have a reference point for that person. Now, your interaction with that person and your experience with that person may change some of the files that you have, or it may reinforce what you already believe, depending on the interaction that you actually have. It's the same. So if you have no filing cabinet and you meet somebody for the very first time that you haven't before, you open the filing cabinet up. And next to you have a filing cabinet reference, you know, this type of person. But our mind has to make sense of things. And one of the things is, you know, for me is that sexuality is never part of who I am as a person. I talk about it in my book to a degree, but I talk it to give someone context of the fact that, you know, to me as a young boy who didn't know, you know, I grew up in a rural country in Ireland where we had one television channel, and that was all religious programs. And so up to the age of 14, 15, 16, I didn't know what that word homosexual meant. There was no Google, no telephones. There was no one having a conversation on TV about, you know, there was no different characters on soaps. None of that existed. So for me, and looking at religious studies, and that what I was wrong. So for me as a child, from the age of 7 or 8, when I knew I was different, I didn't know what that difference was. I internalized that I was wrong. Life had made me wrong. So I reinforced that, and I probably became very much a more reserved child, which is probably hard to see today, but I was a very shy child, but I hid back from a lot of things because I was afraid to be noticed. I didn't want to be noticed. I didn't want to be chosen. I was bullied a lot as a child because I acted slightly different, and because I was a bit of a recluse, I was easy prey. And it was only when I became about 19, 20 that I started to change that. And I started to understand what homosexuality was, and it was the thing that led me to suicide because I couldn't accept it. I couldn't accept the fact that I was a gay person. And because I couldn't accept it, I was prepared to die and not exist anymore. And it was then as I came through that and I realized the fact that, look, you know, I'm a person first and my sexuality is a part of who I am, that I started to grow up. And I did it a long time, a lot of gay counseling for lots of different people for a number of years, really just saying the fact that, look, I've been there. I know what it's like to not like yourself and hate yourself to a degree, the fact that how could I be so wrong? How could I be made? So I had a lot of background and that foundation. And so therefore, to me, in my life, nothing good came from inside. Everything good and happy was something that you bought, and it was material. And so therefore, that was my goal when I read that first Law of Attraction book, is that I'm now going to acquire all these things that are going to make me happy and successful and wealthy. And when I have all of that, I will be enough. But unfortunately, the enough comes from within yourself. And regardless of how much I had and how much I acquired, I really never felt enough because I was never telling myself I was enough. And so therefore, over the last, number of years, I've been working on that, the fact that I'm enough just as I am. And that, has changed my life completely.
Michael, can I tell you something? Thank you for being alive.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Welcome. You touched my heart today because basically, people don't understand. Gay people are amazing.
But I think you know what it is, Johnny. I think the fact that anybody who is different in the world has to go through a sort of different set of struggles, and in that struggle, sometimes they have to find a different meaning for themselves and a different path for themselves. And I think it's in that very introspective way that they have to look within themselves that they find a greater version of themselves. And I think that, anyone who has gone through struggle in their life, someone said to me, "Oh, you're very wise." And I said, well, from great struggle come great wisdom. You don't become very wise by having, a very simple, easy life. You know, wisdom comes from experience, and you have to have lived life, and you have to have experienced it in order to have wisdom from it. Now, that doesn't mean that you use that wisdom and you apply it to your life. You could just be very wise and do nothing with it. You can be very wise and use that information in terms of, how do I use that information so that I can live my life better? You know, how can I live better with that information?
But the thing is, I don't see no like bitterness towards you. Like you have, I feel like you feel compassion, you feel empathy for others, but you're not angry, you're not bitter, but you are willing to help others,
Yeah.
whether while others put you down or you're bullied like I was, and then but you still care about people. What is that like? Why you still care about people?
I think because I think at the core of everybody, I think that everybody, regardless of whoever they are and whatever they're doing and however they're living their life, is that everyone is trying to live the best life they can with what they know at this moment in time. I think the fact that there's nobody out there that is going against what they believe or what they feel or how they think they should live their life. I think it's very hard to live in opposition to what you believe and what you think life should be for you. You tend to live in alignment with that until you change it. The thing is, the fact is that when you realize that I want my life to be something different, then you have to start to go within yourself to say, well, how do I make my life different? And what do I need to change within myself? But I think innately, if someone says to me, I don't like this or I don't like that, I'm saying, that's definitely your perspective. You have the right to have that view. You're the right to have that decision, make that decision. And I don't condemn other people for having a different view to me, because that's their life experiences giving them that view, because I understand how they've acquired it. You know, it's not as if, we all went in and we all got plugged in at the same time with the same load of information. And then we all fell onto Earth and we all then became robotic. We all have come into this world. We've come in on the same empty vessel, but we've been filled up by different socioeconomic situations, different environments, different cultures. So although we are born the same, we grow up differently and we grow into different people based on that input. So our vessels are empty at the start. When we start as an infant, our unconscious mind is an empty vessel. That's why you'll see a child learning and grabbing and touching and absorbing. They're like a sponge. They're absorbing everything. But they're absorbing everything not from your environment, but when I was a child, I wasn't absorbing things from America or Japan or Asia. I was absorbing them from my environment, which was my mother was an ex-nun, my dad was a farmer, I grew up in a Catholic household. That was my environment. My next door neighbors were cows and sheep and, horses. That was my environment. So my environment came from that. And the fact that my mother was, because she was a nun, she had lived in France for many years and she was educated, knew that there was a life beyond where she was. And so therefore gave us an education and propelled us into doing great things in our life. So all of my siblings are all very successful in everything they do. That comes from within from my parents. But I look back on my life in terms of the fact that I hated school. I look back at, when I left high school, and I think the fact that was there any time in high school that I really liked? I absolutely hated it all. Absolutely hated every day. I don't think there was one day, I can't remember a day that I went to school I liked being there. I just disliked it all. And when I left school, there was a sense of freedom. And it was that sense of freedom that allowed me to say, listen, okay, who do I want to be now? I have been that shy person, that bit of a recluse who didn't want to show up. Now I wanted to show up. And I talk about doing that in my book as well. But I think the fact that is the big thing in our life is the fact that we are all trying to do a great job. It's just that we're doing it with what we know. When we know better, we do better. And until that point, until we know that little bit better, how can we do better? I'm sure when you did your first video versus your videoing now, much more. You wouldn't go back to doing it the same way you did it because you know better. So you feel better, more comfortable having the conversations than you did the first day. You wouldn't go back to being uncomfortable because you can't, because you know much better now. And after this conversation, you even know more. So so you're eternally changed now. You're changed forever. And it was the gays that did it for you. Look.
Yeah, I love them. I still remember
the rainbow flag behind your wall the next time.
No. Oh no, but no, I'm not.
Yeah, I know that. I know.
But I'm saying, like, I love gay people, but I still make gay jokes though. That's the thing.
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. I'm from Ireland. We get lots of Irish jokes, English jokes, and Ireland was ruled by the Brits for many years. So we've got this whole Anglo-Irish, unconscious, battle going on all the time. And I remember when I went to my first job as a director in the UK, and I was in an office in Oxford, and my team were all telling Irish jokes. And all of a sudden, I was there, and they went, and I said, "What's wrong?" "Oh, nothing." I said, "Yeah, I am from Ireland, but I tell you, all those, because all of a sudden they realized their boss was Irish, not English, and the silence went around the room. And I said, "Well, for every joke that you have that's Irish, I have two that says it's English. So let's exchange the jokes, and you tell me yours, and I'll tell you my version of it." So we had a whole day of English Irish jokes, and it broke the ice with everybody. So jokes are jokes. The joke is funny. I mean, I loved New York comedian who died a couple of years ago, Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers was a New York comedian who always talked about the things that were taboo, and she always put it into some form of comedic thing. But she had impeccable timing and how she delivered it, and I think that's what's important. I think if people can't laugh at themselves, they're in trouble. We all have to be able to laugh at ourselves, and I think we all shouldn't take ourselves too seriously. I think that we take our lives too seriously, and we take our work too seriously. So I think we need to chill out on that a lot, which we can learn from the millennials, which we can learn from you guys. We can learn that from you, because you're chillaxed about everything.
I'm not, because I changed the way I do that video. I mean, back when I did a video, it was called the book review of book review. And there was this guy, he come on the other channel, and he's like, "Oh, I watched this guy. He wasn't serious. He was in his bedroom." But that was who I am. I mean, I like to, because people like to entertain. This is who I am. I can entertain people if I wanted to.
Yeah, it's your. There's a big world out there, and everybody wants something different, but everyone wants someone who is authentic. They want someone who is themselves, and you only can be you. And if you can do you, the best you can be, you're going to be amazing. And I remind myself that all the time. Got to do me, and I got to do me, the best me I can be, and I'm going to be amazing.
Yeah,
and we all did that. We'd all be.
Thank you so much for this amazing interview. You're like awesome. What does success look like to you?
Oh, success looks like to me. That's a hard question, because I'm good. I can give you. There's immediately. I've got a couple of different answers, because I've got an answer from my corporate world what success looks like.
Well, okay. Wait, before that, okay. So there's corporate world keep coming here again. Like, okay, so like I said, like this corporate thinking, it's destroying a lot of people' way of life, like what they wanted to do or what they're. It's like trap. I don't know if you've seen it. Like that's why so many people try to break free of that limitation. But like, what do you think about that?
But I think if you were to say to me now in terms of success to me is about being present and enjoying what this present moment as sorry, let's say being present, but also finding the best in this moment that there is. That's success to me.
Wait, what? But what's the success for like corporate? You say your corporate thinking. What is
So
that?
success is outcomes. So success in any type of business is an outcome. So depending on you can't say what's a success to you look like. It depends on what you're trying to achieve. So success in your life, success to me could be the fact that my book is on the #1 New York Times bestsellers list, and or success could be the fact that as I am going to earn $10 million over the next 3 days or 6 months. Success has a future tag to it. So for success for me is about more intent. It's more about specific. It's about saying, okay, in this moment, if I can be present and I can appreciate this moment and this conversation, that's success. Because normally I want to be in tomorrow, or I'm going to be thinking, oh, could I have done it differently? Would I say differently? So to be present and just to be now and to be engaged with you, that to me is success.
No, I would like to thank you so much for that. That's why did you well, I mean, you said you've been on podcasts and you've been speaking, but why did you think
I'll tell you, I don't do a huge amount of them. I have a friend of mine, Brian Falchuk, and he says he's done like hundreds. And he says, why aren't you on every podcast? I said, because I don't want to be on every podcast. Because I have a different way. I don't attract a huge amount of people asking me to go on podcasts, because for me, the thing about it is this is the law of attraction again. The fact that there's a thing, it's important. I said, well, it's important to other people to be on loads of podcasts because that's how they're getting their message out. I decided to go in another route and to build my social media profile, and also to build up what is my message. And until probably this year, even though I've written my book and my second book, I've been working on what's my message, because I had different messages, and I'm saying, okay, actually, what is it that I want to share with the world that I know that if they get it, they can change their life. So now that I understand that, I'm happy to share it on every podcast. But until that point, the fact that I was reluctant to go on people's podcasts. I'm saying, actually, I'm not sure what I want. What's my message around, say, being gay, or what's my message around depression? What's my message around, law of attraction? What's my message? Now I have a very succinct message around each and every one of those things. I'm happy with what I'm talking about in context of those. Because it's important for me that someone hearing this information and saying reading my book is that they can hear that and say they can disagree with it, but if I know that that's the truth, in terms of what can be done, well, then therefore I'm happy with that.
So you're saying today I kind of help you with that, or I don't know, or did you just clear a message from this interview?
Did I what say it again?
Did you see this? It was your message that you were trying to figure out about this interview. I mean, like
No. Over this year, I've been when I started writing, and about 2 years ago when I launched my book, January of this year, I got a lot of interest from people wanting to interview me, and I sort of like said no, because I was unsure of what actually is my message, and in terms of because for me, my goal is to write and speaking engagements. They're my two and I've started up Your Life School, which is an online courses, and I wanted to really spend some time with the information that I have and the experiences that I've gone through. I wanted to really put them into some form of a pie that was nice to be served up to people and say, listen, okay, this is my message that I want to share with the world. So it's very opportunistic for you as well, for me to be in a place to say, well, I want to share a message. But that's the law of attraction. People arrive into your life when they rendezvous at the right time, when you're ready to give your message and they're ready to receive it. So you're only one. I've only done 4 podcasts. I've done lots of talks for companies and my own face-to-face, because I interact with people in a group as opposed to a camera, because I'm quite an animated person. So I sort of my energy grows off their energy when they're interacting with me in a group and that. And I can take a particular person and I can ask them to give me a circumstance in their life, and I can tell them exactly how they get from where they are to where they want to go forward. And I can tell them exactly why they won't do half of it. And that was how I wanted to spend the last couple of months in myself, as I was trying to marry my information up together that actually makes sense, in terms of that. If and it's literally going through scenarios in terms of if I was in this situation, I want to do this, how would I get from here to here? What would my cognitive responses be? What tools would I be using? And it was important for me to be able to pull all that information together. And that's why I come across to you now, is the fact that there's a wealth of information and there's layers, because everything has got layers to it. All of our life has got layers, but a lot of times we're just addressing layer 1, when we should be on the inside working out as opposed to the outside working in. And that's my message to people, is that you've got to, if you really want true change in your life, you've got to work from within out, because working from the outside in it's nice. It'll look pretty for a while. You'll change things around. You paint, like painting your house, paint the colors, change the curtains, buy new furniture, but soon you'll get tired of that and you'll start to see the cracks in it again. And you have to start working from the inside out in terms of, why don't I like this house? What can I like? As I said to somebody there recently, in order to find a new job, you have to like the one you have. And they just hated that idea, that they had to like the job they have in order to get a new one. I said, you don't have to like everything about it, but you do have to like certain aspects of it. And there are certain aspects of your job that you do today that you like. And I said, if you focus on those, then you're not focusing on the things that you dislike. And it's the same thing. There are always things in your life that you dislike that you have to do. Like, say, for instance, like your job, you might say, I like the interviewing part. I love the interviewing and the interacting and the conversation. I hate having to go through the whole editing process. Or you might say, actually, I hate the interviewing, but I love all the editing. So there will be some compromise in the work that you do. Or you might say, I hate having to go fishing for clients to interview. So that could be part of the job. Oh my God, if the clients just rode up and came in line, and then I'd love everything else. There's always things. So it's focusing on the things that work and you like.
What you say was true. But except, okay, so I changed the way I do interview a little bit. If you notice,
Yeah.
I don't do bios. I don't. The reason why I hate doing bios, I think that it would lose. Because for me, as a person who's a very introverted person, which is just an idea, but see, I don't get. I know that people say do your research, but for me, it loses the novelty, the getting to meeting a new person. You're just. I think that oftentimes we lose that sense of being a new person.
Yes.
And then because I like the interaction that we have, so I change it a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's many different ways to interview people, and there's one way is not better than the other. It's just different. I mean, I like to freestyle it because that's how you get the best information. I think the fact that if I did an interview and they gave me a load of questions and I'm like, oh, actually, I didn't even read the questions because I was thinking, well, actually just ask me those questions. I just had a quick glance at them. Okay, yeah, okay. I know I have information about all that information, all those questions. And I think the fact that the interview was a lot more fluid than any other interviews I do, because it didn't come across as being rehearsed. It didn't become, oh, it's your turn, now it's my turn, now it's your, it's like a tennis. You know, you hit and I hit, it's like, you know, well, you hit the ball back and I hit the ball back and you hit the ball back. And it becomes very rehearsed. And I think people follow you and like your work for how you do your work. And that you need to honor that and be true to your work and what you want for your result.
Wow, that's so true. You know, I would like to ask, why did you say yes to? Because I get many rejections. So why did you say yes?
Why did I say yes?
Yeah.
I think you must have got me on a good day. You must have got me on my yes day. I have no days as well. I don't know. I just felt right. I got your message and I'm trying to think. Yeah, no, I just felt, I actually looked at one or two of your videos on Instagram. And I said, oh my God, he's frightening. Because I think you were doing one, and it was like, I don't know what you were talking about. It was about something to do with, it must be to do with, you know, some form of, it moved into mindset and law of attraction and things like that. But it started off with, some form of hand, or you were doing some action movement, or you were playing out something and you were doing a role play of some sort. And I'm saying, oh my God almighty, this looks very interesting. And that was really it. I don't tend to delve into what other people do or what they don't do. The way I look at it is the fact that everything I do is getting a message out to somebody, and if that message can change someone else's life, in even one person's life, well, then it's well worth me spending the time doing it. It also, you know, this is something new for me, doing these type of interviews, and so it helps me harness my skill in terms of, you know, having these types of conversations and that. And even though the fact that you know, my cam is here and you're here, I keep going up and down like this, so I need to change that. So I've learned that. I'm looking at you and then I'll realize, oh my God, I got to be looking into my cam here. So I need to change the dynamics of that. And I've started to do some Google Hangouts with, I've started to do some Google Hangout setups with groups and that I've set up on Twitter. And so I need to start doing more of that and do more videos of content as opposed to just messaging and things like that. So I think it was just an opportunity moment to say, listen, okay, let's just go and start doing this. And it was a good opportunity to say, listen, okay, yeah, I want to do more of these. This is good. There's no reason why I shouldn't start now. And hey, presto.
Yeah. And what was it? Videos for me. I don't like like I want to see the person sometimes. Like sometimes I just don't like to not see the person. Right.
Okay.
Because
see, for me,
I'm like.
See, for me, seeing an audience is where I excel. You know, if I walk out and there's a group of people, when I was with Dal, I used to say, lock the doors, you're here for 2 hours. I'm going to talk for 2 hours and you're going to listen because there's no way out of this auditorium. But I would be talking about marketing stuff and I'd be talking about brand and things like that. But I would be passionate about it. But I like talking to an audience because I can see people's faces. I can respond to them. I do a lot of comparing because I'm a bit of a comedian side of me as well when I do comparing. And so there's that personality of myself that comes through when I'm doing any type of compare work or speaking, because I try I suppose my subliminal message is the fact that 3 years ago I wanted to die. Look at me now. Do I look as if I want to die? That's what I'm trying to show you, the fact that your life can change dramatically in the space of time. But it takes time and it takes effort to get from where I was to where I am now, and it will be the same for you. But you can do exactly what I'm doing, but that has to be your intent and your goal. Choose your way, but know the fact that you can be in a different place or the same place. This is your choice, really. They're your choices.
I would like to ask that have time make comfortable, or how do you feel? Like when how is my interviewing skills? I don't know. I didn't do
that. So I think you're a very natural interviewer. I think this has been a really nice conversation. I think the fact that you have, I think that you had a set of questions that you probably wanted to ask, and probably me talking a lot allowed other questions to come into the fold. And I think you responded well to that because you went with the flow of the conversation, which is what's important, is getting from your interviewee the heart of how your viewers can change their life significantly. And that's helping them understand this topic was about the law of attraction, helping them understand that there is a different perspective on the law of attraction. And so from that perspective, you've done a great job.
Thank you so much.
But you'll only get better now from knowing me. So
yeah, I mean, you've been, oh my God. I just, oh my, I just love this.
You're going to work on your values, aren't you? You're going to work in that kindness and that fun and that fantasy. And I'll send you a document tomorrow that allows you to work through what your values are. And you can send it out to your followers and fans as well. But it's literally, it's a full document.
I will leave the description below. So don't worry. And also, would you kindly send your websites and your
Well, I'll send you my bio. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, guys, subscribe to my channel, watch my video, and I'll see you guys next time.